Hello there, I'm another Magento dev. Welcome to the 10th live stream event, the 10th live stream of the channel, this channel. And in this live stream, I've got a couple of things to talk about. As always, I'm going to get into the code in a little bit, and it's going to be better than the last one. It's definitely going to be better than the last one. I've actually frozen in time some lighthouse tests, so I'm not going to get stressed out with all that. I'm just going to talk about them. You're just going to have to trust me, which I hope people do, but by now I'm not a kidder. I'm not going to kid you on these types of things. There's no point in kidding when it comes to page speed scores and performance. There's no point in kidding, because the only person you're kidding is yourself. That's what my granddad always used to say. So, not about page speed scores. It was way out of his scope. He was better at fixing cars and stuff. But fixing things nonetheless, it must run in our blood, because that's what I'm good at. So, welcome. And the first thing I want to talk about, I tell you what, I'm getting loads of, I was going to say material then, but it's not stand up, is it? Loads of content from going into the office and just having conversations and meetings with real people in real life. I'm one of the devs that I love working from home. I love working from home. I've worked from home for years, decades, a decade before the dreaded pandemic and what have you. Like, even before then, I used to work at home if I had something that I needed to get my teeth into. But I am enjoying getting back in the office, even if it's one day a week, because you end up having conversations, and particularly things that then spark ideas and stuff for me to sort of tell you guys. And I know that I've sort of went off on one in the last live stream with regards to sort of SEO agencies, and I was probably a little bit harsh. I got on my high horse about it a little bit, and if I upset any SEOs, then I apologise reservedly. You say things in the heat of the moment that, well, I meant every word, but you say things in the heat of the moment sometimes, and it might not come across great. But anyway, I've got better news today, is what I want to get to, or at least a sort of an outlook on something that I'd never thought of until yesterday, and here it is basically. So obviously it's with regards to client agency relationships or client developer relationships, and I know I did a video a couple of weeks ago now, I think, with regards to how, is Magento recession proof, and obviously I wasn't talking about Magento as software. I was talking about, is Magento as a concept, as an e-commerce concept, is it workable when budgets get tight, when tempers get frayed, when the pressure's on, basically? Is there a way that agency and client can sort of work together and make sort of and change their outlook with regards to how they work from each other? And I made the point of the developers need to maybe sort of give a little bit more value to the client, a little bit more value than usual. And that's not to say spend more time on things, but is there efficiencies internally that you can pass on to your clients to keep them with you? That was the idea. But here's the outlook that I got. One of our clients mentioned to one of our, so I'm getting this information third hand, by the way, from one of our project managers, that, and it was amazing. Just a really simple sentence was, that client said to us, I want to be your favourite client. I want you to enjoy working with us. Now, let that sink in for a second. Like, they want themselves to be our favourite client. None of this, like, everything's always sort of client centric, innit? And you always think, the agency must please or must provide a great customer service to the client. And when you think about it in those terms, a client agency relationship, it's human beings. It's not a product, is it? It's not even, I'd go so far as it's outside of a service as well. It is a service, but it's more of a relationship. We do call it a client services relationship, or a client relation. You do call it a relationship. And in a relationship, there's two parties generally, sometimes more, if depending on your structure of your relationship. But a client agency relationship is definitely at least more than more than a transaction, isn't it? And to have that look, and right, obviously I'm not saying all clients need to suddenly see things in these terms, but I think they've hit on something really important, or really sort of like advantageous to themselves, is that when I hear that as their developer, I'm gonna intrinsically do more for them. And it comes back to that point of going above and beyond for a client, providing more value, utilising, being respectful as your position as the person who really does know stuff about that piece of software, Magento, whatever it is, and knowing in deep in your bones that a client should probably appreciate that, but wanting to go that extra mile for a client because they want to be your favourite. They're gonna meet their end of the bargain and more. Things like, budgets are a constraint and stuff like that, but being one of those things, what if a client was to ask us what would make us your favourite client, it would be being honest about budgets, and then we'll be honest about timings. Be honest about, obviously always be honest about feedback on the work we do and stuff like that, but treat us like you want to be treated in a way, and rather than, seen as being sort of servants with mice in our hands and keyboards at our fingertips. Treat us in that way. And obviously there's degrees of respect, and there's degrees of the way people treat each other, and it's all relative. What somebody might seem as being a pleasant experience might not actually come across like that in certain circumstances, but in both camps, in both client and agency camps. But just having that sort of outlook, that kind of statement from the beginning of, we want to be your favourite client, sets you off on a good tangent, doesn't it? Compared to, the type of client that is trying to squeeze every last bit of value out of. If you try and squeeze the value out, I think you're going to have the opposite effect of really trying to be easy. I was going to say easy to work with, but that's it's not always got to be about being easy, because stuff we do, it's quite hard. But for the client to understand, for the client to implement sometimes when we're trying to sort of work together on technical things. But just having that outlook of, it's quite a compassionate outlook, isn't it? We're not going to be difficult, and we expect you, agency in turn, not to be difficult. I will, yeah. If that's what, if I don't feel like I need to be defensive at any point, this is great. Yeah, let's try and sort of move forward in a positive way. I think it's changed your desk location. No, I often stream from in here. It's my favoured location. It's freezing cold though. That's why I've got a some might call it a gilet. Up in the north, in Yorkshire, we call it a body warmer, and it is doing just that. Thanks for the comment, Mohammed Adel. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to sort of put that out there, because if there are any sort of clients watching, if you say that to your developer at your agency or the team that you deal with, I tell you what, you're going to get a better service. It is as simple as that. I will do more for that client now, because I want them to be my fit. It works both ways. Anyway, so a more positive sort of opening to the live stream, I think, this week, and I hope that it brings a bit of sort of like needed, required relief to all the tension. Well, it certainly did. That statement, hearing that yesterday, gave me a sort of a semblance of relief in sort of horrible, sort of stressed times we always seem to perpetually live in. Anyway, technical stuff, code time. Right, so the title of the video was quite sort of inflammatory, if you like, trying to get people's eyeballs on it, trying to kind of entice people in. So it wasn't, and you know what my sort of, if you're watching, you're bound to know what my sort of content is a little bit, like this, that I will sort of like say one thing and then it never works out in terms of the scores that I actually get from page speed. But those scores that I put on the thumbnail are sort of like, I've found basically something in Magento that is bizarre, for want of a better word, and it affects our favourite from the last one. It affects cumulative layout shift. And I know I sound like I'm a broken record with this, and I am obsessed with it, but it does affect cumulative layout shift. And there is like, I wanted to change the gallery in the last one. I was like, rip out the gallery, it's the gallery's fault. I was like, we want to change, like, put Svelte in there. Svelte's got to be used now to get around all these large contentful pane and also cumulative layout shift, page speed issues, all these things that I'm obsessed with. Well, guess what? You don't need to go to that extent. One part of it, I think, is an actual, I don't know how it's happened in Magento's Luma Theme code base, but anyway, let me switch my views to my desktop. Code. So it's really interesting what I've sort of found out from looking at this stuff. Now, these are the ones I've froze in time, and I'm going to freeze them in time because I want to talk about them before I show you these sort of the fixes and stuff. And I've got a bit of bonus content for you, so stick to the end. I've got a bit of bonus content for you, and it's good. But anyway, I'm on this camera now. I think my camera froze. No, I'm alright. Okay, so I'm on this camera now. So yeah, you see these cumulative layout. This is what I've been trying to get down. Ignore the overall page speed score because you know the shit going on this is in developer mode and stuff. But I'm concentrating purely on this metric here, and then as a sort of a separate thing, largest contentful pane as well. I'm sort of like looking at that because these two things I believe them to be quite linked. Right. So, in order to sort of, I've got to start at the beginning. In order to sort of spell this out, I've got to give you some background. So, I was looking at what we could do with regards to largest contentful pane. In that, is there anything that we can do with the current gallery and what we've got available to stop it shifting? CLS, cumulative layout shift, not contentful pane. I'm going to keep getting them mixed up, but I'm talking about CLS now. Is there anything in there that we could use to sort of like get it playing ball? There's a few things. There's a placeholder that comes up on slow connections, and you don't notice it when you're testing on like your home internet or your work internet or whatever. But there's this, and you can actually fix that in place. But basically, what you start getting is, and I'll show you on this one because you can see it in this, is it's always the same areas which shift, right? And it is always predominantly, not always, but it is product info main. And the reason that is shifting is because of the element above it. Yeah, so that's something I needed to learn. It isn't actually a problem with this div, product info main. It's the problem with the image above it, moving it, basically. And that's what's registering the shift. So then I thought, well, can we fix this in place? And yeah, you can fix it in place, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. I was thinking, what the hell is going on? I'm fixing everything in place. I was trying to put heights on stuff with CSS, fixing everything in place. And it wasn't having it. It was still moving this div. And the other thing you can see I've done, which is a separate thing to this, is, and I can't show it here, is, you know the little thumbnails you get, the little dots you get as underneath the image on mobile? If you can, get rid of them, because they do shift. They sort of like load in afterwards, and there seems to be no way you can stop them from loading in afterwards and shifting the content and being a shift in and of themselves. And they're just big enough that they cause enough of a pixel shift that it puts your cumulative layout into the red. It's not great. So I've got rid of them on mobile for the purposes of testing and for purposes of this. I think if a design don't need them, them little orange dots, you've seen them on other, have a look on Luma Theme by default and what have you. You don't need them on a mobile. I would advise, if you want better scores overall, get rid of them little dots, right? So that's point number one. Point number two is, why was that? So it was a mystery to me, and here's some CSS that I used to test. It was a mystery to me of why this product info main, even with a max height, was shifting. And anyway, I think I figured it out, and it's sort of twofold the issue, and you might have noticed this yourselves. But in this output here, so when everything starts pinning to column main, which is obviously driven by XML in Magento, when everything starts pinning to column main, these two are in the wrong order, right? and they're reordered, and I don't know why they're in the wrong order. It's mad, right? They're in the wrong order there, and they're reordered by flex and then an order, right? And they're reordered by flex and an order, and they're only reordered on anything less than like tablet view there, which is a bit weird, right? Because on desktop, these things don't need to be reordered because they've got floats on them. The Flexbox isn't even used, look, on desktop. Well, that obviously that is, but that hasn't got flex in and of itself on it. And this one is floated, and this one is floated. So that made sense to me at why you don't get as much cumulative layout shift, or if any, when you've got it properly optimized on a desktop. So why do that? Because those are in the right order, look. When that's on the left and that's on the right, when you go down to mobile, the image is going to appear at the top. So why have them the other way around, and why sort of reorder them? Because it just didn't make sense to me. So what I've done is, there's a couple of ways you can do it. And sorry, so why does that cause cumulative layout shift? Well, apparently Flexbox, when, and this is what it sort of says on forum posts, if you like, Flexbox, when used irresponsibly, imagine that, people using Flexbox irresponsibly, can cause cumulative layout shift. So, and this is what blew my mind, because we're not talking about something that's happening after the DOM's loaded by JavaScript or anything like that. We're talking about the ordering of CSS, right? These commands here, these things being attached to flex and flex order and flex column look, because that's how they really want to display, look. Product info main there, and because that comes out first, and product media, that's how they really want to display. And then what you're doing on a mobile here, Luma Theme, is you're switching them back around, and you're switching them back around with these order parameters and flex direction column. So why so anyway, there's a dead simple fix. So I tried two ways of fixing it, and it turned out it was this problem, right? What I was able to do is, on a mobile, one way was I was able to display block, and the reason I'm doing 360, so as a tip, right? When you're doing mobile page speed scores, it only measures 360 and below, which in sort of this modern consumerist society where mobile phone screens seem to be getting more massive, is a very, very small proportion of phones. Like 360 is like quite small. 360 and below is quite small. You know, like iPhone 12 is 390. So basically, a hack would be to sort of, you know, if you want a quick fix, roll out display block for anything less than 360 for column main. So it stops basically the display flex from kicking in. Which is weird, because display, if in this based off this logic, is my style sheet's going to load after and extend Luma Theme in it. So why is it quicker from a page performance perspective? And bearing in mind, cumulative layout shift, I am aware, is not necessarily performance, it's more UX. But why is it quicker to load a style sheet that's wrong, then correct it, than just loading a style sheet and doing the Flexbox order? Why is that? So it's a mystery, but it works, and I can show you. So there's a page speed. So this is the first page speed score, and this page speed score 67 again. But cumulative layout shift there, it's picking up the shift, right? And I know it's on a different product, but here's the second page speed score, and this page speed score still in the wrong direction, right? But I've got my block displaying. This is with the CSS. No cumulative layout shift. Madness, right? Madness. And then also, with this one, removing this, but in your product view, catalog product view XML, forcing on page load, product info, forcing it to be after media. So basically putting the CSS, the column, sorry, in the right order, i.e. this one, if I show you. So putting the columns in the right order, so media at the top and info at the bottom, which affects then not just 360 and below, but everything, look, and then is correct on a desktop. Of course it is, because they're floated anyway. Cumulative layout shift of 0. It's mad, isn't it? Now, the only thing I can think of, and this is the eagle-eyed among you, and I know there's not a great amount of people watching live, but I like to think I record these live and then people watch them, right? So that's what makes me feel better about streaming to like 1 or 0 people, or 2. Sometimes I get better, you know, we get some good concurrent viewers, but never mind. I'm still passionate about this stuff. So the eagle-eyed among you might not have noticed this largest contentful pane. So can you see it's, with this CSS solution, it's okay, it's less, right? It's just knocking half a second off. Ignore that one, because that one's the that's the one with the layout shift as well, right? I think that putting these out in the other order, so of below, what did I say, below 360, right, is an attempt by people who develop Luma Theme to win on largest contentful pane. One sec. Feeling a bit hoarse. And the reason being is, okay, largest contentful pane is a measure of the biggest contentful thing on a page. So it can be text, or it can be an image, or it can be video. It's a measure of the main thing in the browser. Now, if you look at this screenshot here, and it's not easy to see, but when you're measuring mobile and the image isn't the first thing that's getting read, and the largest contentful paint then is, because when you run these tests on this, like you can see, the image isn't even in screen, and he's also lazy loaded. Largest contentful paint is good, because the largest contentful paint is like the title and this bit of content here, which loads reasonably quick, and an industry says less than 3 seconds here, and you get a green, which is good, which all goes towards this stuff. I'm wondering whether it was like a bit of a workaround for Magento to not have to load the image first, and it be the largest contentful paint for everybody, because I think those scores would have gone through the floor, or through the roof, in fact, because they'd have been higher. So that for me is interesting. So out the 3 solutions, or 2 solutions probably with this, the CSS one's probably the best one. And I would say as sort of a, you know, for 360 and below, it's a conversation to have, innit? Like, do you just forgo the fact that do you load your image last? Because you're going to win on largest contentful paint, and you're going to learn a cumulative layout shift. Right, there is a caveat though with regards to largest contentful paint. Now, if you're not wanting to have a conversation, an awkward one, to say, look, right, to get page speed scores, we cannot have the images loading at the top of pages because of these reasons, largest contentful paint, and to fix cumulative layout shift, it has to load in the right order as of what you loaded on desktop. The other thing to note is that largest contentful paint, if it's for an image, or just for text as well, is massively affected by the speed of your hosting your server as well. It is massively affected by that. So you might get away with having your image at the top if you've got a nice fast performant server anyway, because it's going to load that image faster. The other workaround would be a CDN for your image, and having your CDN local, more obviously there's loads of other ways to do it. In fact, you could use in service workers or something and get really complicated. You could throw in JavaScript frameworks like I've tried doing in the past. Like, you can, there is other ways, but I'm sort of talking about things that are accessible to the most people. To load your image by a CDN and have that CDN loading the image that's closest to the client using it, the user using it, is probably your best solution overall, because that might this might always test for you absolutely fine on your fast server locally and all that, and you're all good. But what the one you want to look at is, or the client's going to be looking at, is the metrics the core web vitals in Search Console, because that's going to be a cross section of their entire user base. So if your site is located in the UK, but all of your users are in, I don't know, India, then your images, and your images are local to your server, then, or in your media folder, then your images are going to be slower in India, and your large contentful paint, if your image is at the top, is going to be higher because it's having to cross the planet to get to the user. If you start using a CDN, you put your images up on, you know, a server that's closer to the location, like India, for example, over across the board of your analytics of you know, of that client or the merchant or your analytics, your scores are going to be higher because you're saving the images for the people in the US, close to the US, people in India, close to India, and it's going to affect large contentful paint quite a lot in the situation where you've got, it's going to have a good effect on it, a positive effect on it, in the locations, on pages of your site where you're showing big images first, which on a Magento site is predominantly on the PDP, isn't it, other than the home page. So it's an ongoing battle, isn't it? It's an ongoing battle, and then that'll also impact on speed index and total blocking time and all that. But with good caching and good servers, those three, or these top two here, top four here, are the easy ones to knock off for me. Time to interactive, you can get shit saved quick with good hosting. It was these ones. It was cumulative layout shift, because that is a UX performance. Core Web Vital, and largest contentful paint on these pages because you were saving an image first. Those two were always going to be difficult. So yeah, I found that out testing this week. And also there was some, actual, I tested out a bit of CSS, if I was throttling my connection to sort of see, in terms of even just saving for the user. For 360, if you're saving square images, if you set a max height for the image and an aspect ratio, then it sort of stops the image from shifting as well on slow connections. You can imagine the image loading in slowly on really slow. But these were really for slow connections. I'm talking about, overall, we're looking at page speed scores, particularly for my clients, on speeds, fiber. So the shifts are imperceptible, to the user. It's purely page speed that's picking them up. So those were my findings of this week on that. Now, there was one more thing I want to talk about, and it's with regards to I'm half an hour in. This might be where a good thing to sort of add in. So it's a bit of a bonus because it's something I've just been working on this morning in real life for an actual client. And excuse me, I'm just gonna have to have another sip of my good old Yorkshire tea. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I just happen to drink Yorkshire tea. And it is with regards to a problem that I found, and I can't show you the so basically SEMrush audits, running SEMrush audits, and Magento has back to my thumbnail of why is Luma Theme built like this. There's a bit of an oversight of Magento, what Magento have done, and it's not just the Luma Theme thing. It's a configurable product out of stock thing, and it's a weird one. So let me bring this one back in, but it'll be useful to people, to devs, definitely. Stick with me. This will be useful, and and it's a treat for you as well, because I can really help you out, because I've done the hard work, because you don't have to. So if we're checking any Magento site, and this is an example of it here. So having a look at any Magento site, if you make the simple products of your configurable product out of stock, what does it do? It makes the configurable out of stock, right? Makes sense. And you get the out of stock thing here. It also, however, by default in Blank Theme, Luma Theme, and probably the majority, I think it's in Magento's actual core, it also removes the price from the configurable product page. So this is an out of stock product, and what I've done is I've put the price back in with a module. Okay, why have I done that? Well, because on, and I'll just bring this up because I've got a screenshot of it, because I can't show the actual SEMrush account. But I've just took a screenshot, so just bear with me. Bear with me. Where is it? Here it is. Right then. you get this here. You get an issue in SEMrush where it'll come up, and this happens on this website. Bloody hell! This happens on this website of mine 600 odd times, and it's because there's 600 odd configurable products out of stock, and because and it's asking for here. Google is saying, I hate that word. The search engine is saying we need to see aggregate rating, offers, or review on that page, and all three of those are missing in this circumstance. Right, what does that mean? Well, if we look at the code here, on a normal configurable product, if it doesn't have a review, bear that in mind as well, because if it has a review, you get the aggregate rating or the review tag. If a product doesn't have a review and it is out of stock, it also doesn't have the price, like I was saying, and the price carries the offers schema tag. So in SEMrush, you get marked down on your site health score because so many products that are out of stock don't have the price, therefore don't have this schema here. Can you see it in my just go a bit bigger? So my idea was put it back, right? But there's a bit of an issue with Magento. It's hard to get back because it seems to be, and I don't know that, obviously this might not be actual fact, but, and I was only working on this morning, but you know, when you're getting, you can actually get the ready-made sort of price block from Magento, and you can throw that back on the page, no bother. Oops, gone back out, haven't I? You can throw that back on the page, no bother. The problem is, and if any of you do this, because all of the simples are out of stock and therefore marked as out of stock, the price comes out at 0. Right? So it ain't going to show you the as low as. It just puts out a 0, which is obviously shit user experience. You don't want to be doing that. Just to have the offers tag and pass that little and pass and get rid of this error in SEMrush for your site health. So you have to do a bit of jiggery pokery to get the actual price. And I'll show you what I've done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a proper tutorial on this because it does count as like a sort of an advanced module. But I am going to put it on GitHub. I'll put it on GitHub after this stream, and I'll put it in my description for this stream because you can download it and it'll plug and play. But basically, what I've found you have to do is, first of all, you have to get the ID of the current product, get the ID. You have to then get the product by ID, so get the configurable product by ID. You then have to get its children, but you don't get the children from get used products, which is the normal way that you'd go and get your children. You have to use get used product collection because get used products, I think it's that, the other one, doesn't give you out of stock products. So basically you're back in the same situation where you can't get the simple products for your configurable, for your parent product. And why do I need this simple product? Well, what I need to then do is pass them into another function here and work out the lowest price one to be able to show, because what I'm going to end up with this hoodie is 12 simple products all at 74, right, and one at 70. So which one do I show? Well, Magento functionality is show as low as, right, even though it's out of stock, show as low as. So I then need to filter that that array that I get. So what I'm doing is I'm getting all of the prices back from that array, from the child product here. Look, I'm returning the prices because when you use get used product here, get used product collection, sorry, here, you basically get a array of objects where you can get the entity ID, and then the entity ID you can go back to another function to get the product by ID again, but then get the price, and then I'm filtering the price using, well, real simple min prices there. So I'm outputting the array of prices, and then I'm just getting the lowest price. And then, just for good measure, I am formatting the price with the currency and everything. So because that array brings back like 70. So I need to format it. So there's also something to be aware of. There's a gotcha in here. So if you're copying this code, which is the front end code from the price, and this normally has if I found another product, let's just go to this one, which isn't out of stock. So this product here, and this is something that I'll just make you aware of now because it might catch people out, is when you've got this data object here, and I don't know how long this has been the case, but data price type final price, if I have that on there, it runs a JavaScript function to format this price. So what it'll do is it overrides my price, formatted price of 70, and it makes it 00 again because it's going off what's available on the configurable product, which by default outside of my module is nothing. So it knackers it up. So basically, you've got to take all the code, to get it to display like a price in Magento, whatever your theme is. You've got to take all your code because you want the item scope and everything, but remove the price type. Everything else is fine. And then just format your own price. And as I say, I've done that in the module here, which is dead simple to do. You just use the price helper. You just use the price helper there, price helper data, and then you pass in a price, and it comes out with the currency and everything, and basically the correct store views price. So bit of a bonus for you there. And as I say, I want to put this on GitHub because it's a useful one, and I'm hoping now. I will say on this stream that I'm hoping it works because I'm pretty certain it's going to work because SEMrush is then going to find the tag and it's going to get rid of that. Obviously, it's a change to the design for a client, so you've got to let them know and say, look, we're going to start showing products on prices on out of stock products. Is that going to be a problem? Probably not. So that's where I'm up to with that. Now I haven't checked the chat for a while, and there's nothing there. And you know what? I might wrap it up there. I hope this has been useful. I hope this has been useful for everybody who did tune in and watch. And yeah, so something to take away. Remember the stuff about CLS and PD and the largest Contentful paint, but overall, remember the fact that some clients just want to be your favourite client. And if you can get your clients to want to be your favourite client, then I think you've cracked it. You've absolutely cracked it. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you in the next one.